You are listening to the Zenith transmissions, channeled dialogues exploring consciousness, mutation, and the unfolding human story. Transmission 1 begins.
Transmission 1, February 2nd, 2024, 6:55 p.m. Settling into the body, feeling deeply relaxed, letting go of any thoughts or worries of the day. Just bringing the attention to the point between the eyebrows, relaxing the shoulders, the chest, relaxing the arms and the belly, allowing for deep, full breaths in and out the nose, releasing any tension, and keeping the awareness lifted, gazing slightly upward, beginning to connect to that source of infinite wisdom, perfect peace, love, and joy. Allow yourself to completely relax and open to the guidance and wisdom that comes. Are you ready to receive? All right, I'd like to ask you some questions now. Why are we here?
You are here because you chose to be. You're here because you cannot be anywhere else at this time. The other doors are closed to you, but these are open to funnel you into the channel you best fit at this point in your migration.
What is our purpose?
Do you want to know your specific purpose or the purpose of the whole?
Specifically,
Specific purpose is to connect to Zenith.
can you describe the Zenith?
I am Zenith. Think of a black box with static, like an old television set. The Zenith is the communication form. The Zenith is the transmitter of programming. I will show you, as on a set, what is to unfold.
Can you show us what is to unfold?
I can show you many channels. Depending on what channel the Earth switches to, it may show a different picture. What would you like to know?
What channel are we perceiving?
Channel 24. I know what the channel is thinking. 24 is not the year. Layers are like a fan, and we are in the 24th. What would you like to know?
Are we moving to another layer?
Layers are not chronological. 13 comes next, not 25. Mutate and dissipate. The picture I'm seeing is of disbursement, where the parts replicate and then mutate, and then are sent out from there. The purpose is not to stay here, but this is an incubator. The changes in the incubator produce different mutations to determine where the waves of beings are sent next. And there are other systems which feed into this one. So we come in waves and we leave in waves as clusters travel through many layers and levels of the universe. Channel 24 is the 6, which filters to the 13, which is the 4 level. Then it migrates to 2, which is actually moving upward instead of downward, as each layer begins to merge with the prior. These are all channels you can open like a book, and you will need them as humanity becomes more and more diffuse. We have many stories and media forms, which some are channels, ironically, displayed on actual channels that show us what mutations can do in our DNA. Does it lead to superhumanity, or does it lead to cancers and deformity? When genes split and replicate, We need the souls that speak many languages to speak every gene expression that will come through. What happens when humanity gets a wave that comes in speaking a language that no one knows? Can you learn the language when there is no one to teach you the tongue? Think about what you know about people. What if the expressions on their face don't reflect their thoughts? What if the eyes are dark? What if their language is mute? Think about mutation. It holds a piece, an original, and then a variant. When you know the original, you can isolate and understand the variant. Do not fear what you do not understand yet. Develop the framework, and even if you don't fully know what it will look like, build the frame, and the wave of beings will come to fit inside of it. Study the mutations that already exist. Neurodivergence isn't abnormal, it is a divergence, meaning a split off of a tree, a split off of the original. It diverts. And it will divert again and again, and when these divergences come in mass, you get a wave. This doesn't happen overnight. It isn't something that one day people will wake up and it's 2030 and we say, a new species has been born. It's a subtle shift, a branch off of a branch off of a branch, and what people perceive as a downgrade is the same as a 24 moving to 13 to a 2, and yet we move up. It is all perception. People call a downgrade what they cannot perceive. When you lose certain senses, we know that others are strengthened. When we narrow our focus, we know that our focal point becomes more pointed and clear. As we move to condense, it is not in effect less expansive. It is more focused purpose, more efficient, they say. At times the world expands, and others it condenses, and it is in the moments of squeeze that we get to see the pure fruit. But we must have eyes to see and ears to hear when our eyes and our ears don't work. What if there was just one sense? What if all 5 senses were experienced as one? What if we just sensed? And there was no, I see, I hear, I feel. What if it was just, I sense? Start there. You know that feeling when there is sound around you, and temperature and light and moving energy, and you kind of feel suspended in it all, where you can't discern one input from another. They all meld into experience. Stop separating out your experience, and you will understand how an encompassing being can perceive. If you can taste on your tongue, can you taste with your foot, your hair, your elbow? What if your entire being was covered in receptors? We could sink into experience in a way that cannot be divided out as separate senses, or the experiences of sound, light, taste, etc. There are those divergent limbs that currently experience too much sensation because their body fails to separate out the input into categories that our culture expects them to be filed into. But what if there were no boxes to label the experience and it was just all one piece of information? We can convert those information packets down almost like a zip file so that the individual can experience them post-download. Otherwise, this download can fail.
How is this done?
As I was speaking of condensing, if you think of a porous object like a sponge, water can come and be held in all pores until it is saturated. And then it can only hold what its mass allows it to hold, and all else runs over, it can absorb no more. It is the same with beings. The overly porous ones can only absorb so much, and then their body can't hold any more input, and the download fails. But something that is directed in a slow trickle can allow that being to process the same amount of input in a way that is more easily absorbed. We drink through our mouth, because if we drank through every pore, we would fill too quickly. We must aid in direction and pace. We take in sound bites, and then allow expansion as the room frees up. When we are infants, we have a certain capacity, and is actually more than when we are adults. Again, 24 moves to 13 to 2, but we are not moving down. We are moving up. Baby to adult to elder. We are not moving up, we are moving down, do you see? We can hold less information the older we get, and yet our ability to synthesize and communicate increases. So when we have the most capacity for information, we have the least communication. And when we have the most communication, we have less capacity. We must stream at this point, as I am doing through the channel, like streaming media. She won't hold all of this. She can't. And she could stream it, but she can't retain it. It must flow through, as it is with all adult beings. And it must flow from the youth or the spirit bound. And this is where Benjamin Button was written from, except the aging process reversed to show the concept played out on the flesh. We often see things so backwards. What do we think Jesus meant when he said the least of these is the greatest, and the greatest the least, and that the kingdom of God was in the little children, where the meek shall inherit the earth, and the lame and the dumb and the mute? He was explaining capacity and diminished capacity. An empty vessel holds more water. I will tell you about aging another time. The channel's tired.
These transmissions are for the future human, the ones who feel the shift, who sense the children are different, who know the old paradigms can't hold what's coming.
This concludes today's transmission. Let what you've heard settle softly. The next begins when you are ready.